Today we are going to discuss about a number of important questions from the cardiovascular system. The first is, describe the capillaries and what is the function of endothelium. Now, before going into the answer directly, let us first define the cardiovascular system. What is the cardiovascular system? The CVS or cardiovascular system is a system which is composed of the cardio means heart, and the blood vessels. The heart pump the blood and the blood vessels distribute and circulate the blood throughout the whole of the body and then return it back to the heart. Now, in the blood vessels there are several types. The smallest category is the capillaries. So capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. So capillaries are smallest blood vessels. Okay. Now if you take a look at the blood vessels, then you will see that starting from the heart, first comes the larger arteries in bright red, then the medium size arteries, smaller arteries, and ultimately these smaller arteries lead up to the capillaries, and capillaries join together to form the venules, then the vena cava, which ultimately return back to the heart. Okay. So capillaries are actually present at the junction of the arterial system and venous system. At one end of the capillary is the arterial system, and at the other end of the capillary is the venous system, and at the junction of arterial system and venous system the capillaries are present. Capillaries, as you can see in the diagram, they form a network like thing, like that, a network. This network is called the plexus. So capillaries form network and this network is called plexus. The anatomical name of network is plexus. That's why the capillary is called capillary plexus. Okay. So once again, starting from the very beginning, what are the capillaries? The question was, describe capillaries. So what are the capillaries? Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. Okay. Now in this context you may be asked that what are the type of blood vessels that can be seen in the cardiovascular system. Then you have to say that in cardiovascular system we generally get to see the following 5 type of blood vessels. So type of blood vessels, this can be a related question. Type of blood vessels, what are the types? Types of blood vessels are, number 1 are the large arteries or elastic arteries, then medium arteries which are known as the muscular arteries. Number 3, arterioles. Number 4, arterioles. Number 4, capillaries. And number 5, the veins. Large arteries are known as elastic arteries. The medium arteries are known as the muscular arteries. Arterioles are known as resistance vessels. Capillaries are known as exchange vessels, and veins are known as capacitance vessels. Okay, now into the capillary we focus, because our topic is capillaries, and capillaries are called the exchange vessels. That means capillaries exchange different materials into the tissues. Capillaries actually surround the tissues and they provide the oxygen and nutrients and hormones and enzymes to the tissues and take up the carbon dioxide and metabolites and other harmful substances from the tissues. So capillaries are the smallest blood vessel. Okay, smallest blood vessel. They form plexus or network, form plexus. These capillaries surround the tissues, and supply the tissues with oxygen, nutrient and other important required materials. Supply oxygen, nutrient and remove CO2, metabolites from tissue. That's why they are called the exchange vessels. Exchange vessel. Okay. As they are the smallest vessel, then we must know what are their diameters. The diameters of the capillaries are less than 10 micrometer. On an average it is about 8 micrometer, the capillary diameter. Now the arrangement of the capillary plexus and their density vary from tissue to tissue. That means in some tissue the capillary plexus or capillary network is very dense, and in some tissues the capillaries have very little density. So density of the capillaries varies. Density variable. That is a very important thing. There are also some tissue in the body where capillaries are almost absent. So capillaries are absent where? Where capillaries are absent? Capillaries are absent in epidermis of skin. Number one, you know the skin is made up of two layers, epidermis and dermis. Capillaries are absent in epidermis, the upper layer of skin. Number two, they are also absent in hairs. Hair, you know, it is a derivative of skin. Similarly, nail, which is always also a derivative of the skin, it is devoid of the capillaries. Number 4, in the cornea of the eye, capillaries are absent. Number 5, in the joint class, I told you about the articular hyaline cartilage. So the articular hyaline cartilage is also devoid of capillaries. And last but not the least, the epithelial cells. There are no capillaries in the epithelial cells. Okay. So these are the sites where capillaries are absent in the body. Now next we discuss the structure of a capillary, typical capillary. What is the structure of a capillary? Let me show you a diagram. So this is a structure of a typical capillary. Okay. The wall of a capillary is formed essentially by the endothelial cells. These are the endothelial cells, which are flat single layer cells which are lining the walls of the capillaries. Single layer flat cells named endothelial cells having nucleus. So endothelial cells or endothelium, which is a single layer of squamous cells, single layer of flat cells line the capillaries. And these epithelium or epithelial cells, they sit on a basement membrane. Outside these cells there is a thing called basement membrane. Basement membrane act as a support on which the capillary cells are actually lying or sitting. That is called basement membrane. Basement membrane. Overlying the basement membrane, there may be isolated branching perivascular cells and a delicate network of some reticular fibers and cell. Next, what we see, there is a third kind of cell outside the basal lamina. That is a third component. This component is known as the pericyte. What is the name? Pericyte. So we get the endothelium lined by basement membrane, and outside the basement membrane is partially covered by the pericyte. It is not completely covered. Now pericytes are contractile cells. They can contract and they have some contractile filaments in the cytoplasm, and pericytes help to squeeze out the content of the capillaries, and they are present outside the basement membrane of the capillary. Okay, so once again, what are the layers that form the wall of a capillary? A single layer of flat cells which are called endothelium cells. Number 2 is the basement membrane, and outside the basement membrane there is a contractile cell that is called the pericyte. Now our capillary description is over. We have described the capillaries. What is important now is we have to describe the functions of the endothelium, right? Endothelium, I have told you just now, that is a single layer of flattened cells that are lining the capillaries. Now what are the functions of endothelium? So let us discuss the function of endothelium. Okay, endothelium serves a lot of function. Okay, so number 1 in the function of endothelium, what is the number 1 function? First of all, we have to say that the circulation through the capillaries are called microcirculation. Circulation through the capillaries is called microcirculation. Okay, microcirculation. Capillaries are the smallest vessels and they are not visible by naked eye. We have to use microscope to see the capillaries. So capillaries are microscopic vessels. Hence the blood circulation through these microscopic vessels are known as microcirculation. Okay. Now the capillaries, they control the rate of microcirculation. How? By increasing and decreasing their diameters. So capillaries can increase and decrease their diameter. So capillaries can increase their diameter, which is called vasodilatation. Vasodilatation. The vasodilatation is brought about by secretion of a substance that is called nitrous oxide. It is a vasodilator. This nitrous oxide is secreted by capillaries. Capillaries also can reduce or narrow their diameter by vasoconstriction. So narrow the diameter, that is called vasoconstriction. Now both the vasoconstriction and vasodilatation are helped by the endothelial cells. because endothelial cells secrete the nitrous oxide, which is the vasodilator, as well as the endothelial cell secrete the vasoconstrictor material. What is an example of vasoconstrictor material? The example of vasoconstrictor material is endothelin. Endothelin. So you see, the first function of the endothelial cell is that the endothelial cell increase or decrease the diameter of the capillary lumen by either vasodilatation or vasoconstriction. They secrete different chemical mediators that bring about these changes, and these mediators are called either vasodilators or constrictors, and by increasing or decreasing the lumen of the capillaries they regulate the microcirculation. Okay, that is the first important function. What is the next important function? Next, number 2. Number 2 is that the endothelial cells produce factors that control coagulation of the blood. Normally, the flowing blood within the intact blood vessel does not clot. So, under normal condition, the clotting is inhibited. But whenever there is an injury in the blood vessel wall, the coagulation is initiated. So, endothelial cells, next function, endothelial cells, they control coagulation. Okay, control the coagulation. Next, number 3, under the influence of some stimuli like cytokines, the endothelial cells undergo change that facilitate passage of lymphocyte through the vessel wall. So this is a change where see a capillary from inside. This is a capillary lumen. Now within the capillary lumen the blood is flowing, and blood contains the red blood corpuscles RBC, the white blood corpuscles or leukocytes, and the platelets. Now normally the white blood corpuscles are confined within the capillary lumen, but during inflammation they can pass through the gap between the endothelial cells. Where is the endothelial cells? The endothelial cells are basically lining the capillary wall. These are the endothelial cells. Endothelial cells. In between the endothelial cells, you can see that the leukocytes are actually passing from the blood into the surrounding tissue. This is a leukocyte. Leukocyte passing from the blood into the surrounding tissue. And this type of motion where the leukocyte pass through the gaps between the endothelial cell is called the diapedesis. Diapedesis. Okay, and diapedesis or the passage of the leukocyte through the endothelial cells, it occur under the influence of cytokine. Number 4, under the influence of histamine, which is produced in allergic states, the endothelium becomes highly permeable. So whenever histamine is secreted, endothelium becomes highly permeable. That means it then allow liquid and gases to pass through it in a frequent manner. Normally the endothelium does not allow frequent passage of fluid and water through it, but in case of histamine induced changes the endothelium becomes leaky, so more and more fluid can pass through the endothelium from the blood into the tissue, and there is accumulation of fluid in the tissues, that is called edema. So whenever there is a release of histamine, the histamine makes the endothelial cells more permeable or leaky, resulting in accumulation of tissue fluid. Accumulation of fluid in the tissue is called edema. Then what else? Endothelial cell help in formation of new blood vessels, that is called angiogenesis. Angiogenesis. Number 5, help in formation of new blood vessels. Formation of new blood vessels, which is known as angiogenesis. And last but not the least, endothelial cells serve as a site of storage for enzymes. Storage of enzymes. Example, the angiotensin converting enzyme or ACE, which converts the angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, is stored in the endothelial cells. Angiotensin converting enzyme is stored. So these are the different functions of the endothelial cells. So we have described the capillaries and we have enumerated the function of endothelium. Now we have to discuss that what are the different types of capillaries. Okay, so basically we have got two types of capillaries. To be more precise, there are three types of capillaries. So three types of capillaries. What are they? First one is the continuous capillary, second one is the fenestrated capillary, and third one is the sinusoids. 1. Continuous capillary. Number 2 is the fenestrated, and number 3 is the sinusoids. What about the continuous capillaries? Let's take the example of continuous capillaries. This one. In a continuous capillary, the edges of the endothelial cells fuse completely with those of the adjoining cells to form a continuous wall. So basically the endothelial cells, they fuse with each other in such a manner that their membranes form a continuous covering around the lumen. There is no gap between the endothelial cells. Okay, so the endothelial cells, they fuse completely with their nearby cells to form a continuous endothelial covering. So you see the cells are fused together. How many endothelial cells are seen in the diagram? There is 1, 2, 3 and 4. The 4 endothelial cells are fused side by side in such a manner so that they form a complete tubular covering, and this type of capillaries are called continuous capillaries. In continuous capillaries, the exchange of material between the blood and the tissue, how the exchange is taking place between the blood and the tissue? It is taking place through a process which is known as the transcytosis, or it is called transepithelial transport. Transepithelial transport. Through the epithelium is transport is occurring. Transcytosis or transepithelial transport. So transepithelial transport is seen in case of continuous capillaries. Okay. Continuous capillaries show the transcytosis, and the transcytosis, due to transcytosis there is presence of a special type of vesicle in the cytoplasm. These vesicles are called the pinocytic vesicles. You must know that those cells which show transport through their cytoplasm show a special kind of vesicle. They are known as pinocytic vesicle. Pinocytic vesicle. So endothelial cells are showing the pinocytic vesicle in the cytoplasm. Okay. Continuous capillaries are seen in the skin, muscle, lung and brain. So what they are seen? Example: skin, muscle, lung, brain. We get to see the continuous capillaries. The endothelial cells, once again, in the wall of such continuous capillaries, they are joined together by tight junction. The endothelial cells which lie side by side, they actually joined together or held tightly, very tightly together by tight junction. So the junction between the nearby endothelial cell is called tight. So the name suggests that the endothelial cells are so tightly packed side by side, there is no gap between them. Okay. Next is the fenestrated capillaries, next variety. So first is the continuous capillary that I have discussed. The next variety is the fenestrated capillaries. What is that? Now, fenestrated capillaries are those capillaries, number 2, where the wall of the capillaries have apertures in their endothelial lining. That means the endothelial cells have holes or apertures in them. There are holes. You can see the holes in the endothelial cells. These holes are called fenestrae. Okay. So in the previous type, continuous, there was no aperture in the endothelial lining. In the second variety, there are aperture in the endothelium lining. And normally these aperture are enclosed by a very thin diaphragm. Aperture, fenestrated capillaries, apertures present closed by very thin diaphragm. Okay. Now in case of fenestrated capillary, the diffusion of substance between the blood and the tissue take place through the fenestrae or the apertures in the capillary wall. So the materials are actually passing through these gaps. One important thing is that the basement membrane which lie outside the capillary endothelium is intact. Though there are gaps in the endothelial cell, the basement membrane in fenestrated capillaries is intact. Where the fenestrated capillaries are seen? The fenestrated capillaries are seen in renal glomeruli, interstitial intestinal villi, endocrine glands and pancreas. So example is renal glomeruli, then the intestinal villi, endocrine glands, endocrine gland and pancreas. That is the fenestrated capillaries. And the last variety is the sinusoid. What is the name? Sinusoid. What is that? In some tissues, okay, the sinusoids or a modified capillaries are found. Now, the sinusoids, how they differ from the typical capillaries? What are the hallmarks of a sinusoid? In case of sinusoid, the capillary lumen is much larger and they are irregular. So the lumen, capillary lumen, that is much larger. Why the lumen is much larger? Because the diameter is about 20 to 40 micrometer, whereas in case of a capillary the diameter is usually 10 micrometer in capillary. So lumen is much wider as compared to a typical capillary, and it is irregular. The lumen is irregular. Okay. The next important difference is that there are gaps between the endothelial cells. So the endothelial cells are fenestrated. You can see the gaps between the endothelial cell. Okay. And the basement membrane outside the endothelial cell is also having gaps. The basement membranes are also discontinuous. So endothelial cells have fenestrations and basal lamina or basement membrane is discontinuous. Endothelial cells have fenestrations and basement membrane discontinuous. That is the difference between the two types, the sinusoids and the capillaries. Sinusoids sometimes present extra kind of cell apart from the endothelial cell, and these are the reticuloendothelial cells, which belong to the phagocytic variety of cells such as Kupffer cells in liver. So apart from the endothelial cell, there are reticuloendothelial cells. These reticuloendothelial cells help phagocytosis. Phagocytosis means the eating. Phagocytosis means eating or ingestion of the foreign bodies. Digestion or eating or ingestion of the foreign bodies is known as phagocytosis. So that is about the sinusoids. Now where the sinusoids are present? Sinusoids are present in the liver, the spleen, bone marrow, etc. So sinusoids are present in liver, spleen, bone marrow, in these areas. So we have discussed the different type of capillaries, continuous, fenestrated and the sinusoids, and also mentioned the sites where the sinusoids are found. Okay, so that has been discussed. Now the next thing is that we have to know the difference between the sinusoids and capillaries, and I have told you the difference. The difference being the sinusoid wall is, sinusoid lumen is irregular and much larger. Number 2, both the endothelium and the basement membrane are discontinuous. Number 3, they present the reticuloendothelial cells. And number 4, They are present in particular sites of the body named as liver, spleen, bone marrow, etc. Okay, so that brings about our discussion regarding the capillaries. Next question is, what are the components of cardiovascular system? The components of cardiovascular system, number 1 is the heart, and then the blood vessels. The blood vessels into categorized into the following 5 types. Let's write 5 subtypes. Number 1, conducting blood vessels, which are the large arteries. Number 1, conducting vessels, which are the large arteries. Large arteries, conducting vessels. Next is the distributing vessels, which are the small or medium sized arteries. Number 2, distributing vessels, that is the distributing vessels, medium sized arteries. Next is the resistance vessels or arterioles. Number 3, resistance vessels, or arterioles. These are the arterioles. Number 4 is the exchange vessels, which include the capillaries or sinusoid and the post capillary venule. Number 4, exchange vessels. Which include the capillary and the post capillary venule. That means the venule into which the capillary just ends. So when the capillaries just end, they start a very minute venous channel. At the end of the capillaries there are very minute venous channels which are called venules. Exchange vessels are the capillaries and post capillary venules. That means the venules which are present just beyond the capillaries, just where the capillary ends. These are the exchange vessels. And last type, number 5, is the capacitance vessels. Capacitance vessels. They include the large venules, medium and large size veins. Large venules plus medium plus large size vein. Okay, so these are the components of the cardiovascular system: heart and the following types of blood vessels. Heart first and the following 5 categories of blood vessels. What are the categories? Once again, the conducting vessels, the distributing vessels, the resistance vessels, the exchange vessels, and the capacitance vessels. Okay. Next, we will discuss about the arteries. What are their structures, what are the definition and important features. Okay. Now coming to the arteries, first of all we have to define the arteries. What is the definition of an artery? So artery, what is the definition? What is the definition of artery? Arteries are those vessels which carry the blood from the heart to various tissues. So artery carry blood from heart to different tissues. So basically arteries are carrying blood away from the heart. Okay, but the veins, they return the blood back to the heart. So the veins carry the blood towards the heart. So that is the main difference between the arteries and the veins. Next is that the basic structure of arteries. What is the basic structure of artery? You can see in the diagram that the arterial wall as well as the venous wall is formed by three concentric layers, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, similarly the venous wall is made up of three concentric layers from inside outwards, 1, 2 and 3. These layers are called from inside outwards. What are the layers of the arterial wall? Layers of arterial wall. The layers of arterial wall from inside outwards are three concentric layers. The most innermost layer, it is known as the tunica intima. Middle layer is called tunica media and outer wall is called tunica adventitia. There are three layers from inside outwards. Okay. Now we will discuss each of the three layers in details. First, we take a section of the arterial wall. The innermost layer is the tunica intima, the middle layer is the tunica media and outermost layer is tunica adventitia. Now tunica intima is formed by the following layers. First we discuss about the tunica intima. It is formed by number 1 an endothelial lining. The innermost lining of the tunica intima is made up by the endothelial cells. Number 1, endothelial lining. Then outside the endothelial lining there is a thin layer of glycoprotein which is present outside the endothelium. So a very thin layer of glycoprotein is present at the base of the endothelial cells. It is called basement membrane. Basement membrane. Below the basement membrane there is presence of connective tissue, that is called subendothelial connective tissue. Number 3 is the subendothelial connective tissue, and there is an wavy membrane that is formed by elastic fiber beneath the subendocardial connective tissue, that is called the internal elastic lamina. So a wavy elastic layer which is called the internal elastic lamina is formed at the junction of tunica intima and tunica media. Internal elastic lamina. Okay, so that is the tunica intima. Endothelial lining, basement membrane, subendothelial connective tissue and internal elastic lamina. Okay, the next layer or the middle layer is called the tunica media. Next is the tunica media layer. Beneath the tunica intima or outside the tunica intima there is the tunica media or middle layer. This media consists predominantly of elastic tissue or smooth muscle. So tunica media is composed of two elements mainly. Number 1, elastic tissue or elastic fibers, and number 2, smooth muscles. Okay, there is also some connective tissue in between them. On the outside the tunica media is lined by another wavy elastic lamina that is called the external elastic lamina. External elastic lamina. Okay, so tunica media has got these three components: elastic tissue, smooth muscle and external elastic lamina. Now based on the proportional amount of elastic tissue and smooth muscle, the arteries are of two types. Whenever there is an relative excess of elastic tissue, that means whenever the elastic tissue is more in the tunica media, it is called elastic artery, and whenever the smooth muscle mainly makes up the tunica media, it is called a muscular artery. So histologically there are two types, elastic artery and the muscular artery. Okay, so whenever elastic tissue predominates in the tunica media, this type of artery is called elastic artery. When the tunica media is mostly made up of smooth muscle, it is called muscular artery. Okay, next is the tunica adventitia. So before going into tunica adventitia, just a revision: elastic arteries and muscular arteries. What are they? On the basis of the kind of tissue that predominates in the tunica media, the arteries are divided into elastic arteries. Elastic arteries are actually larger conducting arteries with a large lumen. Example is aorta and its branches. Aorta and its main branches. What are the main branches of aorta? Brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, and left subclavian. Left subclavian. Whereas muscular arteries are medium sized artery, and in muscular arteries the tunica media is mostly made up of muscular tissue. They are medium sized artery. Medium sized. And the example of muscular arteries are the radial artery, ulnar artery, brachial artery, axillary artery, radial artery, ulnar artery, femoral artery, brachial artery, etc. So we get two types of arteries, elastic artery and muscular arteries. So we have got the definition of artery, the three layers of artery, among which two have been discussed, that is the tunica intima layer and tunica media layer, and we have got two subdivisions of arteries, elastic and muscular, which is mainly done on the basis of the composition of tunica media as well as their size. And last we are going to discuss about the tunica adventitial layer, or the most outside layer, outermost layer. The tunica adventitia, the most outside layer, outermost layer, it consists of connective tissue in which collagen fibers are predominant, and these layers prevent undue stretching or distension of the artery. So tunica adventitia is rich in collagen fibers, prevent undue stretching of the arteries, prevent undue stretching of arteries. Okay, so that is the main structure, histological structure of the arteries. So wall of the arteries, the formation have been discussed. Now there are two terms, atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis. They are often confused and they are very important clinical conditions as regards the arteries. So what is arteriosclerosis and what is atherosclerosis? In arteriosclerosis, there is an age related thickening of tunica media. That means the tunica media layer is thickened as the age is advancing. With increasing age, the tunica media layer is thickened. Tunica media is thickened with advancing age. There is increase in collagen fibers in tunica media and accumulation of lipid and loss of elastic fibers from the tunica media. Loss of elastic fibers from tunica media. Okay, and all these things ultimately results in atherosclerosis. Tunica media becomes thickened, there is increased collagen content, increased lipid content in the tunica media, as well as loss of elastic fibers in the tunica media. So it is a age related change, and ultimately what happens is that there is narrowing of the arterial lumen. What will be the result of the thickening of the tunica media? Narrowing of arterial lumen. That is called arteriosclerosis. And we have to know the atherosclerosis, another term that is very often confused with the former. Atherosclerosis. So first one is the arterio, next one is the athero. Though both the terms sound the same, but there are differences between them. What is atherosclerosis? Let's see. So this is a normal artery, and this is a artery which is affected by atherosclerosis. Basically, atherosclerosis is a condition where lipid is accumulated in the tunica intima. So on the tunica intima there is accumulation of lipid droplets. In the diagram the lipids have been depicted in yellow. So there is lipid accumulation over the innermost layer on tunica intima. Lipid is accumulated over there, and this lipid is further reinforced by aggregation or deposition of collagen fibers. So over the accumulated lipids the collagen fibers are deposited. Now this patchy mass, the mass of lipid droplets along with the collagen fibers, these are known as the lipid plaques. Lipid plaques or plaques equal to accumulation of lipids, lipid plaques. The accumulated lipid drops are called lipid plaques. As a result of gradual accumulation, ultimately from the diagram you can see there is severe narrowing of the artery, there is severe compromise in the arterial supply, to the organ, resulting in a lack of blood flow to the organ and complications from lack of blood flow. So what will happen in the atherosclerosis? Narrowing of lumen, and lack of blood supply to the tissue. Okay, so that is the atherosclerosis. So both the terms, though they looks and sound similar, but they carry different meaning. Atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis. Arteriosclerosis occur at the tunica in media, and atherosclerosis occur in the tunica intima. Okay, now the important thing is that there are several more points regarding the arteries that need to be discussed. First of all is that the blood supply of the large arteries. What about the blood supply of large arteries? Now when the arteries are of small caliber, suppose arteries are of small lumen, then the arterial wall is supplied by the blood that is present inside the lumen. But when the arteries are large sized, suppose this is a large size artery, then the blood in the lumen cannot supply whole of the thickness of the wall, because blood in the lumen supply by diffusion, and there is a limit by how much diffusion can carry. So diffusion has a limit of supplying. So what happens in those cases? In the cases of large arteries, the tunica adventitia and outer two-thirds of tunica media is supplied by a set of small arteries. So what is the case? In large arteries, suppose this is the wall of a large artery. In them, in the tunica adventitia layer, there are presence of small arteries. So smaller arteries are present in the tunica adventitia of the wall of large arteries. These smaller arteries are called vasa vasorum. The literal meaning of vasa vasorum means artery of the arteries. From this vasa vasorum branches extend, and these vasa vasorum ultimately supply whole of the tunica adventitia and outer two-thirds of tunica media. Whole of the tunica adventitia and outer two-thirds of tunica media. It is supplied by the blood vessels. So vasa vasorum are basically the blood vessels which supply the large arteries, blood vessels which supply the tunica adventitia and outer two-thirds of the tunica media. Okay, vasa vasorum, that is an important term we have learned. Now what about the nerve supply of the arteries? Nerve supply. Arteries are supplied by non-myelinated sympathetic nerve fiber. Non-myelinated sympathetic nerve fiber. These are called nervi vasorum. Non-myelinated. Myelin is a covering of nerve, you have to remember, which is made up of lipoprotein, lipid and protein. So non-myelinated sympathetic nerve fiber supply the vessels mostly, and when these non-myelinated sympathetic nerve fibers discharge, they constrict the blood vessels. So their function is vasoconstriction. Except in heart, brain and skeletal muscle, where the nerve causes vasodilatation. So otherwise the nervi vasorum causes vasoconstriction, except in heart, brain and skeletal muscle, they are causing vasodilatation. Okay. Now there is a very important thing that we must mention, that the arteries, peripheral arteries or medium sized arteries, are used to see the arterial pulse. You all know that the arteries, radial arteries at the wrist, is used to palpate the pulse. The doctors see the pulse at the hand, at the wrist of the patients. So what is a pulse? Pulse is a palpable impulse. Pulse is a palpable impulse Palpation means pressing with fingers. Palpation. So pulse is a palpable impulse that can be felt with the fingertips, and it is basically the wave pressure of blood flow through the medium sized arteries. So pulse is a palpable impulse, and this impulse is created due to the pressure of blood flow which is caused by the ventricular systole. Pressure of the blood flow is caused by ventricular systole. Okay. Now, as regards the site where the pulse are seen, there are the following sites where we can get the pulse. Number one, we all know, that is the radial artery. Next, over here lies the brachial artery at the side of elbow. Brachial artery. Then by the side of the neck, carotid arteries, radial, brachial, carotid arteries. Then we get in the lower limb, number 4, femoral artery. Then at the back of the thigh, at the back of the knee, we get the popliteal artery. At the ankle, we get the posterior tibial, and at the dorsum of the foot, we get the dorsalis pedis. So these are the different areas where we can palpate or feel the arterial pulse. Okay. So we have seen the arteries, discuss their walls, atherosclerosis, arteriosclerosis. Already we have gone through the capillaries or exchange vessel right in the beginning of our discussion. Okay, and we have also named the different tissues where the capillaries are absent, which are the so-called avascular tissues of the body. Okay. Now we have to discuss about the arterioles and arterioles or resistance vessels. What are the arterioles and arterioles or the resistance vessels? Let's discuss. When we trace the cardiovascular system from the heart, we get first the large arteries, then the medium sized arteries, and then as we go distally, the arteries progressively decrease in caliber, decrease in size, till they have a diameter of about 100 micrometer or less, and then they are called the arterioles. So what are the arterioles? So arterioles are the smallest subdivision of arteries. They are the smallest subdivision of arteries, smallest subdivision of arteries with a diameter ranging from 10 to 100 micrometer. And you remember by this time that the capillaries are less than 10 micrometer in diameter. So arterioles are smallest subdivision of arteries having diameter ranging from 10 to 100 micrometer. There are two types of arterioles, larger or muscular arterioles and smaller or terminal arterioles. So two types of arterioles, A, larger or muscular arteriole, so their diameter is also more, that is 50 to 100 micrometer. And number B, the smaller, the terminal arterioles, terminal, less than 50 micrometer in the diameter. So terminal arteriole and the larger muscular arteriole, they are the two subdivisions of arterioles. Now arterioles have smaller diameters. Arterioles are the smallest subdivision of the arteries. Okay. And what are the main function of arterioles? Arterioles are the main regulators of the peripheral vascular resistance. Actually, the contraction and relaxation of the smooth muscle present in the walls of the arterioles can alter the peripheral vascular resistance, which is a chief controller of the blood pressure. So arterioles actually control the blood pressure. Okay. So arterioles, what is the most important thing regarding the arterioles? Arterioles are the main regulators of peripheral vascular resistance, PVR, peripheral vascular resistance. And by contraction and relaxation of their walls, the arterioles can alter or change the peripheral vascular resistance, and if the peripheral vascular resistance is changed, BP is changed. So alteration and controlling or regulation of the blood pressure is the chief function of the arterioles. Arterioles are also known as the resistance vessels. So we have covered the arterioles as well. Why the veins are called capacitance vessels? Veins are called capacitance vessels because they have a high capacity to store most of the blood in our body. In adult human, the total amount of blood is 5 liter. Most of the blood is actually stored in the venous system, and very little is stored in the arterial system. That's why the veins, due to the large holding capacity of blood, they are called the capacitance vessels. Okay. We have also discussed the sites where arterial pulsation can be felt. What are the important sites that the arterial pulsation can be felt? Okay. Now coming to the factors that differentiate between the arteries and veins. What are the difference between the arteries and vein? It is a thing we discuss right now. So difference between the arteries and veins. Arteries and veins. First we will define an artery, and that we will know by this time what is an artery. Artery is a vessel that carry the blood away from the heart. Carry away from heart. Where the veins are the vessels that carry blood towards the heart. Carry blood towards heart. Number 2 is that the look of the arteries, they are bright red. Arteries are bright red, whereas the veins are bluish black. Bluish black. Arteries are located deeper, at a deeper plane. Veins are located at a more superficial plane. Next is the transport. The arteries transport mainly oxygenated blood, except the pulmonary arteries, whereas the veins carry the deoxygenated blood. Exception being the pulmonary vein, which carry the oxygenated blood. Then regarding the structure, both the artery and vein, both of them have three layers in their wall: tunica intima, tunica media and tunica adventitia from inside outward. But in case of arteries have three layers, but in case of arteries, tunica media layer is very thick, very thick. In a vein there are three layers in the wall as well, just like the arteries, but tunica media is thin tunica media. Rather, tunica adventitia is relatively thicker. Tunica adventitia is thicker. Next is the lumen. Lumen of arteries are much smaller. Lumen are much smaller, but in case of a vein, lumen is much larger. Arteries don't collapse. The arterial walls are always patent due to high amount of elasticity. Arterial walls don't collapse, whereas the venous walls are collapsible due to lack of elasticity of the venous walls. Okay, the blood pressure in the arteries, BP, is high, whereas the blood pressure in the vein, venous blood pressure, is low. Arterial BP is high and venous blood pressure is low. When the artery is cut due to any reason, blood from a cut artery flow like a jet. Blood from a cut artery flow like a jet at very speed, whereas blood from a cut vein blood flow is slow or sluggish. Cut vein blood flow is slow or sluggish. Okay, so these are the different, very important. Apart from it, we can also add the arteries are devoid of valves, are devoid of valves, and veins have valves usually. So these are the very important differences between the arteries and vein, both structurally, functionally and on an histological basis. So differences between the arteries and vein. have been discussed in detail. Okay, now what are the components of vascular system? I have told you the different types of vessel: conducting vessel, distributing, resistance, exchange and capacitance. And now the question is, what are the factors that help in venous return? Actually, the man is a person, the man is the species which can stand by his own feet. It is called erect posture. Okay, now due to erect posture in our lower limb, the blood flows against the gravity. When the blood from the lower limb come to the heart, then the movement of the blood from the lower limb to the heart is against the gravity. So this anti-gravity motion of blood in the lower limb is helped by several factors. Venous drainage of lower limb occurs against gravity, right? So how is it possible? Number one, by contraction of powerful calf muscles of the leg. By contraction of calf muscles. You have to remember the calf muscles act as a pump and they squeeze the blood through the vein towards the heart. They push the blood or pump the blood towards the heart. They provide a pumping force against the gravity. Number two is by the negative pressure in thorax. During inspiration, when we take breath, there is a negative pressure that is created in the chest. The chest expands and as a result the blood from the veins are sucked in. Just think about the picture that you put a dropper into the ink bottle, you push the dropper, and when you release the pressure on the dropper, there is a negative pressure created in the dropper and the ink, it enters from the pot into the dropper. And the same thing occurs with the human. When the human being they take breath, then the chest expands and as a result there is a negative pressure within the chest, and this negative pressure actually sucks the blood through the vein against the gravity. And last, via transmitted arterial pulsations. This mechanism is quite complex, but still this is it. The artery which actually surround the veins, the pulsation of arteries in a certain manner, they keep the flow through the vein active against gravity. And I have told you the veins have valves. The valves in the vein in the lower limb, valves in vein of lower limb, they prevent the backward flow of blood. That means the valve direct the flow in the veins in the lower limb towards the heart, but they prevent the backflow of the blood towards the ground. So in the lower limb the blood is flowing against the gravity, and this unidirectional flow is further helped by the valves which prevent the tendency of backflow of the blood. Okay, so these are the factors which help in the venous return. And next we will discuss the different types of circulation of the cardiovascular system. Now we are going to discuss about the different types of circulation of blood. In an adult individual, the average amount of blood is about 5 liter, and the blood circulates through an estimated 60,000 miles of vessels through the body to provide food and oxygen to trillions of living cells. The number of living cells is trillions. Trillions means 100 billion, and 1 billion is 100 million. So trillions of living cells make up the body, and these living cells are all supplied by the blood. Now the types of blood circulation can be categorized into following 3 types. What are the types of circulation? Blood circulation. Number 1 is the pulmonary circulation. Number 2 is the systemic, and number 3 is the portal. Apart from these 3 types, in a normal adult person, there is a 4th type that is seen in a fetus, that is named accordingly as fetal circulation. So altogether in human there are 4 kinds of circulation: pulmonary, systemic, portal and fetal circulation. Let's take a look about what this circulation means. For the first one, pulmonary. What is that? Now in pulmonary circulation, the deoxygenated blood entering the right atrium passes to the right ventricles. So from the right atrium the blood is passing into the right ventricle. Okay, so let's clear out once again. From the right atrium the blood is flowing into the right ventricle, that is a deoxygenated blood, and right ventricle pumps it through the pulmonary trunk and pulmonary arteries. From the right ventricle this deoxygenated blood is entering the pulmonary trunk, and then the right and left, through the right and left pulmonary arteries, this deoxygenated blood enters into the lung. There the deoxygenated blood passes through the lung capillaries. These are the capillaries of lung, and in the lung capillaries the deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated. Okay, and ultimately through the pulmonary veins that oxygenated blood returns to the left atrium. So through the pulmonary veins from both the lungs, the oxygenated blood is entering where? Into the left atrium. Okay, so that is the pulmonary vein. So pulmonary veins carry the oxygenated blood, whereas the pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood. So pulmonary arteries are carrying the deoxygenated blood from the right side of the heart, and these are oxygenated into the lung capillaries, and they enter into the left side of the heart via the pulmonary vein. That forms a pulmonary circulation. So that is the first type. Next we will discuss the systemic circulation. What is the systemic circulation? Okay, in the systemic circulation, what is happening? The oxygenated blood which has already reached the left atrium from the lung, the oxygenated blood go into the left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle it is pumped out through the aorta and its branches to the capillaries of the rest of the body. So from the left ventricle, this is the left atrium, this is the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, the blood is pumped out via the aorta and its successive continuation and branches into the rest of the body. Okay, now the blood which is getting diffused into the rest of the body, starting from the left ventricle, they are again returning back to the right atrium via superior and inferior vena cava. So this oxygenated blood, after supplying the tissues of the body, they become deoxygenated, and this deoxygenated blood get back via the venous system of the body and ultimately gathered via two very large veins which are called the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, which end into the right atrium. So that is the pathway of systemic circulation. Okay, from left atrium to left ventricle, from the left ventricle to the body, then through the tissues, through the capillaries throughout the body, the tissues are supplied, and from the tissues the carbon dioxide and metabolites are taken up by the capillaries, and deoxygenated blood is returned via the venous system into the right atrium via the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So it is forming the systemic circulation. So pulmonary circulation means circulation through the pulmonary bed through the lung, and systemic circulation means that is the circulation through the rest of the body. Then what is the portal circulation? Portal circulation is a subset or part of systemic circulation. So let's draw the portal circulation in this diagram. Let's mark out the portal. This is the portal circulation. Portal circulation is from one capillary to another capillary. Basically portal circulation in from one capillary plexus to another capillary plexus. Capillary to capillary circulation. So portal circulation is a part of systemic circulation. In this diagram we have depicted one such portal circulation which begins with capillaries. It begins with capillaries and end with capillaries. So blood passes through one set of capillary to another set, and portal vessel or portal vein is the vein which connect the two sets of capillary. It is called portal vein. Okay, so there are several such portal circulation system in the body. The one that we are drawing in the picture, the one we are showing in the diagram, this one is called the hepatic portal circulation. So one is hepatic portal circulation. Okay, in hepatic portal circulation, actually the venous blood passes from the capillary bed of gastrointestinal tract, pancreas and spleen. So this first set of capillaries are collecting the blood from the gut, from the intestine, both large and small intestine. The first set of capillaries are collecting the blood from the GIT, spleen and pancreas, and then via the portal vein via the portal vein. Okay, this blood is carried to the second set of capillaries which are present in the liver. So the second set of capillaries, as I have told you, the portal circulation is present between the two sets of capillaries. In hepatic portal system, the second set of capillaries are present in the liver. Okay, so that is called the hepatic portal circulation. From the liver, ultimately the blood is drained into the inferior vena cava, that is the IVC, inferior vena cava. Similarly, so that is the portal venous hepatic portal circulation, hepatic portal circulation. Similarly, we get portal circulation in the pituitary gland, that is called hypothalamo hypophyseal portal circulation. Number 2, hypothalamo hypophyseal portal circulation. That means in this type of portal circulation, one capillary plexus is at the hypothalamus and another capillary plexus is at the hypophysis or at the pituitary. Then we get the renal portal circulation. Renal portal circulation. Okay, so there are different kinds of circulation, portal circulation. And then last but not the least, in fetus we get the fetal circulation, which has not been shown but which will be read when we study the embryology. Okay, so systemic, pulmonary and the portal circulation has been discussed. Let's now see another some relevant topics and questions that come from the cardiovascular system. That is that describe the venous valve and what is a varicose vein. There is an important topic, very important topic. Now if you look at the structure of a vein, if you took a longitudinal section through the vein, there is a longitudinal section, you will see that the inner lining of most of the medium and small sized veins are thrown into semilunar folds. The inner lining is forming a semilunar fold. The inner lining is forming a semilunar fold. Semilunar fold. These folds are called cusp, and two such cusp on two sides, that is 1, that is 2, two such cusp from both sides form a valve. Okay, the cusps are arranged in pairs facing each other to form a device which is called valve. A valve is basically a device that permits the flow of blood only in the direction marked. When the blood tries to backflow, the cusp of the valves are closed like this and prevent the backflow of the blood. So valves open only in one direction, and that direction is towards the heart. Okay. Now example, the valves are present near the termination of, for example, internal jugular, there is present of valve. At the termination of the subclavian, there are presence of valve. Subclavian vessel. These valves actually help to flow the blood towards the heart. Okay. Also, the blood venous valve present in the femoral vein help the flow of blood from the lower limb against the gravity into the heart. Now there are veins which do not have valves. Valves are most numerous in the veins of the limb. Valves are most numerous in limb veins of the limbs. But there are some veins which do not have valves. So veins which don't have valves. What are the veins that do not have the valves? Let me tell you. Superior vena cava, number 1. In this diagram, this is the superior vena cava, this is the inferior vena cava, IVC, SVC. So SVC, IVC, hepatic vein, renal vein, renal vein, uterine vein, ovarian vein, they are devoid of valves. Okay. Next is the varicose veins. What is a varicose veins? A varicose vein is one which is dilated, elongated and tortuous. Actually, the accumulation of blood in the veins of the legs over a long period of time, as may occur in people whose profession requires standing still all the day, can cause the veins to stretch to the point where the venous valves are no longer efficient. Okay, so for long period of standing, the veins in the lower limb get stretched by the weight of blood. As a result, the valves in the lower limb veins become malfunctioning, become damaged. So there is backflow of blood in the lower limb veins and they become dilated and tortuous, which is called varicosity of veins. So there is accumulation of excess blood in lower limb veins. Why? Due to prolonged standing, অনেকক্ষণ দাঁড়িয়ে থাকলে, prolonged standing throughout the day, such as police personnel, traffic police, traffic guards, bus conductors, etc. Prolonged standing. The most commonly affected vein is the great saphenous vein. Great saphenous vein is the superficial vein of lower limb. Great saphenous vein, and the vein looks like dilated, elongated and tortuous. Looks like this. Normally the great saphenous vein look like this, normal, but when it is got varicose, the valves are damaged, there is backflow of blood and there is excess accumulation of blood which stretch the blood vessel wall and make it dilated, elongated and tortuous. Next we will discuss the anastomosis and end arteries. Okay. So first of all, what is an anastomosis? We define the anastomosis first. Anastomosis means there is a communication between the arteries. See at this diagram, there is a communication between the adjacent arteries. communication. This communication between the arteries is known as anastomosis, especially if the communication occur before the capillary level. So arteries which have a communication with their nearby arteries are known to have anastomosis. So anastomosis is a communication. So what is anastomosis? It is a communication between two arteries. Okay. So what kind of anastomosis do we get to see? There are two types of anastomosis that we get to see. So anastomosis is a communication. Anastomosis, very easy, is basically a communication. Okay. So there are two types of anastomosis. One, actual anastomosis. Actual anastomosis means there is a real anastomosis, real সত্যিকারের অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস আছে অ্যান্ড তার মধ্যে দিয়ে সাফিসিয়েন্ট অ্যামাউন্ট অফ ব্লাড ফ্লো করতে পারে। সেটা কীরকম হয়? এক, in the form of end to end. Suppose this is an artery, A and artery B, দুটোর শেষ প্রান্ত দুটো এরম ভাবে লাগানো। So it is called end to end anastomosis. Okay, end to end, একটা প্রান্তের সঙ্গে অন্য প্রান্তটা লাগানো। এক্সাম্পল যেরকম ফেসিয়াল আর্টারি, লেবিয়াল আর্টারি, আর্টারি অফ দ্য পামস অ্যান্ড সোলস। এক্সাম্পল facial artery, labial artery, artery in palm and sole. ওকে, আরেকটা রকম ভাবে অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস হয় নাম্বার বি, দ্যাট ইজ কল্ড কনভার্জেন্ট। যখন দুটো আর্টারি, টু আর্টারি কনভার্জেন্ট জয়েন উইথ ইচ আদার, দুটো আর্টারি এরকমভাবে জয়েন করেছে, কনভার্জ করে জয়েন করেছে, জয়েন করে একটা সিঙ্গেল আর্টারি ফর্ম করেছে, দ্যাট ইজ কল্ড convergent anastomosis. For example, the two vertebral arteries, they converge to form a basilar artery. So that is a convergent anastomosis. So both of these two types, end to end and convergent, এরা কার পার্ট? না অ্যাকচুয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসের পার্ট। এবার যে সেকেন্ড টাইপ অফ অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসটা বলবো সেটা হচ্ছে পোটেনশিয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস। পোটেনশিয়াল মানে কি? পোটেনশিয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস টেক প্লেস বিটুইন দ্য টার্মিনাল আর্টেরিওল। আগেই পড়িয়েছি হোয়াট ইজ টার্মিনাল আর্টেরিওল। These are the smaller arterioles. There are two types of arteriole, muscular and terminal. Terminal have a diameter of less than 50 micrometer. Now দুটো টার্মিনাল আর্টেরিওলের মাঝখানে যে অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস, দ্যাট ইজ কল্ড পোটেনশিয়াল। In such type of anastomosis, actually collateral circulation cannot take place is if one of the artery is suddenly blocked. বেসিক্যালি কি হয়, যখন দুটো আর্টারির মধ্যে অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস হয়, অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসের মূল লক্ষ্য কি? যদি একটা কোনো ব্লকেজ হয় কোনো আর্টারিতে, তখন সেই অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসের মাধ্যমে, থ্রু দ্যাট অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস, ব্লাড ফ্লোটা কিন্তু জারি থাকে। দ্য ব্লাড ফ্লো রিমেইনস কম্পিটেন্ট অর পোটেন্ট থ্রু দ্য অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস। কিন্তু অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসটা যদি এরকম হয় যাতে করে কমিউনিকেটিং চ্যানেলের মধ্য দিয়ে সাফিসিয়েন্ট অ্যামাউন্ট ব্লাড ফ্লোই না করতে পারে, তাহলে ইন দ্যাট কেস it is called potential anastomosis. So potential anastomosis is a type where communication is present but blood flow through the communication is insufficient. তার মানে থেকেও খুব একটা লাভ হচ্ছে না, কারণ ব্লাড ফ্লো তাদের মধ্যে দিয়ে পর্যাপ্ত পরিমাণে হতে পারছে না। ঠিক আছে, এই এবার যদি অনেকক্ষণ টাইম দেওয়া হয় তাহলে দেখা যায় যে অনেকক্ষণ যদি ব্লকেজ যদি অনেকক্ষণ থাকে তাহলে দেখা যায় যে অনেক সময় এই পোটেনশিয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসের মধ্যে দিয়ে অ্যাডেকুয়েট অ্যামাউন্ট ব্লাড ফ্লো করতে পারে। যাই হোক, মোদ্দা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যে অ্যাকচুয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিসে দেয়ার ইজ আ এফেক্টিভ কমিউনিকেশন যার মধ্যে দিয়ে ব্লাড ফ্লো করতে পারে। পোটেনশিয়ালে কমিউনিকেশন থাকে কিন্তু তার মধ্যে দিয়ে ব্লাড ফ্লো করতে পারে না ঠিক মতো। তাহলে আমরা অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস পড়লাম, অ্যাকচুয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস, পোটেনশিয়াল অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস পড়লাম। নাও হোয়াট আর দ্য এন্ড আর্টারিজ? এন্ড আর্টারিজ হচ্ছে সেই আর্টারিগুলো যাদের মধ্যে কোনো অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস নেই। সাপোজ দিস ইজ অ্যান আর্টারি, দিস ইজ অ্যান আর্টারি এ অ্যান্ড বি, এদের মধ্যে কোনো কানেকশান নেই। এ সাপ্লাই করে টিস্যু নাম্বার 1, বি সাপ্লাই করে টিস্যু নাম্বার 2। there is no communication between these arteries, no anastomosis, so they are called end arteries. So end arteries are one which don't have any anastomosis. Okay, so end arteries, okay, they don't anastomose, they don't anastomose, এগুলো হচ্ছে এন্ড আর্টারিস। হলো, অ্যানাস্টোমোসিস কিন্তু করে না এন্ড আর্টারিগুলো। ঠিক আছে, আচ্ছা, হোয়াট আর দ্য এক্সাম্পলস অফ সাচ এন্ড আর্টারিজ? এন্ড আর্টারিজ এক্সাম্পল হচ্ছে রেটিনাতে থাকে সেন্ট্রাল আর্টারি অফ রেটিনা, arteries of liver, spleen, kidney, etc. So end arteries example central artery of retina, arteries of liver, spleen, kidney, এগুলো সব end arteries হয়ে গেল, end arteries। okay, next is what is collateral circulation, what is arteriovenous anastomosis or vascular shunts। আচ্ছা, প্রথমে arteriovenous anastomosis এর ক্ষেত্রে আসি। Arteriovenous anastomosis or vascular shunts are actually direct connection between the arteries and veins without the intervention of capillaries. These are called arteriovenous anastomosis or shunts. Look at this diagram. এই ডায়াগ্রামে একদিকে আছে আর্টারি আরেক দিকে আছে ভেন, দুটোর মাঝখানে একটা ডাইরেক্ট কমিউনিকেশন হয়েছে, যে কমিউনিকেশনটা বাইপাস করেছে ক্যাপিলারিকে। সো দেয়ার ইজ আ ডাইরেক্ট কানেকশন বিটুইন দ্য আর্টারিজ অ্যান্ড ভেন উইদাউট দ্য ইন্টারভেনশন অফ ক্যাপিলারি। নর্মালি দ্য ভেন্স অ্যান্ড আর্টারিজ আর কানেক্টেড বাই ক্যাপিলারি, but in some circumstance there is a direct communication. So arteriovenous anastomosis are basically direct communication between arteries and veins without the intervention of capillaries, and they are termed as shunts. Okay, so there are area where the arteriovenous anastomosis are found, যেরকম skin of nose, lips, external ear, tongue, thyroid gland, etc. So what are the example are skin of nose, lips, thyroid gland, tongue, এইগুলো এখানে আমরা একটা ডাইরেক্ট কমিউনিকেশন দেখতে পারি। ঠিক আছে, আচ্ছা। Now what is the collateral circulation? Collateral circulation. Collateral circulation মানে হচ্ছে এমন একটা সার্কুলেশন যেখানে নর্মাল পাথওয়ে অফ দ্য সার্কুলেশন ইজ নট ফলোড, that is called the collateral circulation. Okay, so collateral circulation means an alternative route of circulation when the main route of circulation is somehow blocked or non-functioning. So this collateral circulation or alternative circulation keeps the organ viable. Okay, so with that I would like to complete the discussion of the cardiovascular system. And the questions on the heart will be discussed later on as a separate topic, but the question on the blood vessel have been completely done. Thank you all. You will see through your books and complete the chapter.